Some believe these Stilfontein zamas are criminals who could have left whenever they chose, while others see it as a human rights issue. How do you view it? Share your views via WhatsApp on 072-110-5584, or you can give us a call on 010-594-6010. Now, for more on this discussion, we are joined by Cosatu Northwest Secretary Kopano, the Society for the Protection of Our Constitutions, Zehir Omar, as well as political analyst Professor André Duvenhage. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening on a very heated topic, one that has completely divided the country. But I think for us tonight, we're going to focus in terms of the handling of government. I mean, we've heard a number of statements coming from members of government, from smoking them out to it's not the responsibility of the police, to human rights groups are being criticized for defending illegal miners in Stilfontein. I'm going to ask the same question to all three gentlemen, starting with you, Zehir, with regards to how you view government's handling of this situation.
I dealt with this case for the first time. I went before Judge Newzroom. I received instructions from the Society for the Protection of Our Constitution. What unfolded was inexplicable. The utterances by Minister Ntshavheni in the office of President Ramaphosa. These people may be persecuted. The illegal miners, they should be starved to death. Now, what did I learn from this? I'll tell you what I learned. You know, Marikana is known for the disaster of Marikana, where more than 37 miners were killed, where as a result of the instruction to President Ramaphosa. Again, here we have Stilfontein. It appears when there is a conflict, tension between the rights and the Constitution and protecting the mining, the gold in South Africa, the protection of white monopoly capital's ownership of mining is greater than the fundamental rights in the Constitution. And this has been played out by utterances by the minister in the president's office and the failure of President Ramaphosa to distance himself from these utterances. We have people murdered, tortured, and killed, and then the people are called illegal miners, and the South African media endorse it. That is not true. These are not illegal miners. They have not been tried in a court of law. How many hundreds of them were there to take food to others? How many hundreds were underneath to save others? We can't label them all illegal miners. And then I'm told that they are currently charged for being illegal immigrants, for trespass and illegal mining. Illegal mining, I've explained to you, you can't label them illegal miners before they are tried. And many were there to pick up nuggets, many were there to help others. Illegal immigrants, the law in South Africa today is if any person illegally in the country announces his wish or her wish to apply for asylum, that person should be released. Now, until 2 weeks ago, Mozambique was in complete chaos. There was political upheaval. How many hundreds, how many thousands of people in Mozambique want to seek asylum in South Africa? Surely the law must apply. Before these people were forcefully sent back to Mozambique, were they told of their rights? They were not told their rights. Then, trespass, I read in the newspaper that people are charged for trespass. How can a person be charged for trespass having been on land that's abandoned? We abandoned land. Even our open that you can't be guilty of trespass if you're on the land that's been abandoned. This is a time for the South African government, the ANC, to reflect. The ANC has lost the majority of the support of the people of the country, despite it being the oldest liberation movement in Africa. This is the reason why it has. And the billions of South Africans who are observing this will see the real motive of the ANC government ruled by Ramaphosa and his minister Ntshavheni is to protect white monopoly capital, but specifically mining. Ramaphosa is well known to own many mines in Duvenhage. He's well known to own many mines.
Right.
They have got into bed with mines. So our friend Marina, 3-4 years ago, he was shouting white monopoly capital. He's now silent. But the truth of the matter and the horrors Any steps whichever possible take to protect the mining interest has been expressed in Marikana and now has been expressed in Stilfontein as well.
Zehir, we're just struggling with your line there, Mr. Omar. I mean, we can pick up some of what it is that you're saying, and I just want to bring in Northwest Cosatu there. We hear Zehir saying that the president has failed to distance himself with regards to these comments, and of course the ANC needs to reflect with regards to what is happening, and of course how it then damages their own brand, and that the president, the minister in the presidency, Ms. Nchabeni, is protecting white monopoly capital. What's your take on the responses and how government has handled this, Ntate Konopi?
Well, I think maybe it is not the time to be playing politics, Katlego, but the point that we should be looking to say, what is it that we find ourselves here in Stilfontein in a situation that we are found in here? And my first point of departure, Katlego, is to say the rule of law exists because it wants to protect the rights. And if we cannot really enforce the rule of law for the purpose of protecting the rights that are existing, we are going to find ourselves not knowing between the dog and the tail which one is working the other. Because what comes first is the basic fundamental rights. And secondly, then you put in the rule of law so that we can enhance and protect those rights for all the people in there. Now, to look at what has been raised by Zehir is to say, in every capitalist society, the first thing that would be put and be protected, it would be the profit, or it will be the question of putting the money first to say, at what cost are we going to execute this exercise? When we raised this thing last year in November, the state came in and said that they are going to execute this thing and they are going to rescue everybody who was underground at the time. They came back 14 days later and said that their plan seems not to be hatching as fast as they could, and they want to have everybody to play a role in making sure that people have been rescued there. And they gave us a promise to say that in 7 days, they will be starting the rescue. And later we were informed that the bone of contention for them to start this operation to start as it started on Monday. And in 3 days that now we are told that they finished the work. It was the issue on who is supposed to pay. So like I'm saying, in every capitalist society, what you put first is not about human life, it's not about human rights, it's not about protecting human dignity. It's about what would be the cost and who would become the beneficiary and who's going to pay the cost in there. It's not about to say how many people are alive, how are we going to save, how many rights are we going to protect. So if we can look at the transformation of the society to become a society that's not been driven by capital, where we do not put money first, it is then that we can start to say, between the rights and criminality, what comes first? And like I'm saying here, the first to say, if you look at Chapter 2 of the Constitution, is where you find the rights. That is why it is being located there. It is specifically located at the beginning of the Constitution of the Republic, at Chapter 2, because it is fundamentally the foundation of what the Constitution should be. Every other thing that comes in there must enforce and protect those rights and make sure that every citizen of our country is able to enjoy those rights. Now, if the state allow criminality to happen, maybe for now we are talking about the criminality that is happening in the mine. But because of that criminality that was happening in the mine, there was much more criminality that was happening in the society. So for the failure of the state to combat crime, because we have given the state the responsibility to combat crime, that is why they're in charge of the police, they're in charge of the soldiers. The failure of the state to combat crime, they violated the rights of the people of Klerksdorp, Kanana, Kuma, and all those other areas because they've been terrorized by all these people who have been here because they came here with the interest of going to do illegal mining. Now, when they don't get an opportunity to do illegal mining, they find other ways and other means to live and survive.
So, Ntate Konopi, let's hold it there. Prof, I'd like to bring you in there in terms of the role of the state. I mean, Cosatu just speaks of the footing of the bill versus human rights. What do you say with regards to putting white monopoly capital first, as well as ensuring that you first look, was it a legitimate argument by government in looking at what's in their coffers first?
Katlego, to me, this is not a political, ideological matter. It doesn't involve politics and ideology. Rather, it has to do with government and it has to do with governance. And if I can be a bit more specific, it's about, on the one side, the Constitution, human rights, the Bill of Rights, and the way we deal with this. That's the one side. On the other side, South Africa is a state where criminal activity is completely out of hand. And we have seen these zamas operating in Stilfontein mine for probably the past 10 years. And we need to ask the question, why wasn't there any action whatsoever over this period? And then secondly, was the methodology to deal with this in line with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and whatever you would like to bring into that picture. My assessment is there's no doubt that we need to act against criminals and we need to act thoroughly. What is unfortunate about the Stilfontein episode is that the people at the grassroots are paying the prices, and the bosses of what seems to be organized criminal activity is getting free from this process. And this is a very unfortunate situation. I am not seeing white monopoly capital at the core of this, and I cannot make that connection. In fact, if we just look who are the owners of minerals in South Africa, it is the state. So in that sense, the state is responsible. I believe the government is responsible. The respective administration is responsible. And I believe there will be court cases, but in a sense, we need to approach this situation from more than one angle.
I see Zehir responding there when you say this is not a white capital monopoly situation. But before I get some of those responses, we have a caller on the line, Nuku from Paris. Good evening to you. What's your question to the panel?
My question to the panel, especially the gentleman who was just speaking right now. Where do you get human rights if you don't have rule of law? The human rights exist because of rule of law. No rule of law, no human rights. Example for that is Zimbabwe. Now, in South Africa, we have rule of law. If you don't follow the rule of law, it means now you are in the criminal line. You are a criminal. So stop wanting to blame other people of what you are seeing. Let's find out why do we have what we had. All right? Those are the questions that I'm giving to the gentleman that ended before I come in. How did we arrive to where we are? And remember, those people never wanted to be rescued. Instead, they negotiated how they want to be rescued. Somebody who needs help, wait for my own experience to give help. You don't come and say, you help me this way and this way and this way. When the medical people come to your rescue in an accident, you wait for them to help you. You are helpless. You can't do anything for yourself. The same applies to those people. They could not have anything to do for themselves. They said they wanted help.
Right.
But then when you help them, they now they have demands. No.
All right.
It can never happen like that.
Okay. No.
Let's follow the rule of law so that we can then thereafter talk of human rights. Then there you will be able to have people whom you have to blame. Don't throw your blames now, sir.
Okay,
you are wrong to do that.
Thank you so much for that question. Thank you so much. We do get your question. We're going to go for a quick ad break. And when we return, we will be answering Noku's question. And we do have a few of your WhatsApps as well as more callers who are on the line. So in the meantime, you can share your views with us via WhatsApp on 072-110-5584 or give us a call on 010-594-6010. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. We're still continuing with our discussion with regards to Stilfontein and the retrievals that have been happening over the past couple of days and how government has been handling the situation. We do have our panel that is on standby to continue answering your questions on WhatsApp as well as those calls that are coming in. We currently have a WhatsApp that has come in from Mpela MJ. Mpela says, these human rights seem to be promoting lawlessness in the country. Every time the illegal foreigners are trapped in an unpleasant situation of their own making, South African government must rescue them at the cost of taxpayers. How is Human Rights Commission helping the government to maintain law and order? That's from Mpela MJ. And the next one says, most important is who were these people working for? Let's not look far. And this thing was reported long ago. Can we hear when the investigation of who was taking this gold? That's from Babjay. And the last one says, good evening. Good evening. What is happening in Stilfontein is very sad and painful. The government must arrest big fish who trafficked these people in a promise of a job. Hunger is a problem here. Law must take its course. And that's from Ronald from Namedwa in Tzaneen. We've got another caller on the line. This is Leah from Nelspruit. Neil, thank you so much for calling in. What's your question to the panel?
Yes, thank you for having me. My question is, I want to understand why the government has to be blamed with regard to this episode of Stilfontein. And also my concern is, why can't we look for the person that they are working for? Because those people that are underground, they go there with an instruction of somebody else. You can't just come here to South Africa and go underneath the mining without being instructed by someone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah, for that question. All right, gentlemen, it seems as though the questions from the callers as well as those on WhatsApp seem to have the same theme with regards to accountability, and many South Africans believing that it should not squarely lie on the shoulders of government. I'm going to go back to you, Prof, because the first question was posed directly to you by Noko from Pare, saying, where you get these human rights where there's no rule of law? How do they get there? They made a lot of demands, not wanting to be rescued. They gave a lot of terms and conditions. What's your answer to Noko?
Well, maybe I can explain it a bit more, but South Africa is a constitutional state, and that constitutional state is accommodating democratic values. And these democratic values involve a number of things. We can say, for example, the rule of law is one of them. Human rights and other freedoms are another aspect of that. Accountability is an aspect. And so I can continue on this line. The challenge, however, is to balance the rule of law on the one side with human rights on the other side. And my basic problem is that the South African state is a state in decay. And we need to ask the question, in the first place, why are there about 5 million illegal immigrants in South Africa? And who is responsible for that? And the only group that can be responsible is the state and the relevant departments in this regard. So it's becoming a problem from the state. Then secondly, if we analyze it a bit further, we can take it to an economic level. We are facing an economic crisis. Over the past decade, we have seen only about a 1% growth rate, a very, very high level of unemployment rate, about 30%. And taking this into consideration, people are trying to survive and they are following illegal ways in order to survive. In the same time, and I've seen the reports, there's a huge escalation of organized criminal activity. And at this point, the state and the rule of law is facing major challenges. And my take on it is that criminal enterprises are currently dominant within South African society at the expense of the rule of law and democratic principles.
All right, we do have another caller who's Gabelo from Kempton Park. Gabelo, a very good evening to you. What's your question to the panel?
Good evening. My question is to our attorney in studio there. In his comments when he started, he put the blame squarely on the current president of the country. And my main concern, and I want him to respond because he is a lawyer by profession, and this what is happening there would absolutely need people, especially of his caliber. Why is he always blaming Ramaphosa? And I see this as a trend. But I want him to respond to me to say, why does he think Ramaphosa is to be blamed? And he just leaves it there. What is it that he can do to prove to the whole country, the society, to say, he has to be held accountable as a president, either for the current situation or either as the Marikana situation unfolded? Because these are the issues that, in my view, create part of the problems that we have as citizens, where academics or people who we rely upon in terms of opinion spread malicious rumors, and then people start thinking law in the country doesn't work. So if we have people like him who can explain to us this process is failure, to say, look, for Ramaphosa to be held accountable, for the situation to be dealt with, these are the issues that we need to consider. So I want to know what type of evidence does he have that would convince us as South Africans that indeed the current president has to be held responsible for Marikana as well as this current crisis that we have.
All right. Thank you so much, Gabelo from Kempton Park, giving us his views. They're obviously posing that question to you, Mr. Omar, saying that you are a man in the legal fraternity. People of your caliber should know better when it comes to the law and who should be held accountable. But most importantly, why are you blaming the president? And I think this pairs up nicely with Leah's question when she was asking, why is the government being put to blame?
Question. I'm pleased with the question. First, I want to emphasize a reference by Professor Duvenhage, who repeated the reference to the state with respect is wrong. The state, the word state, is in no way defined in the Constitution, number one. Now let's go to the question of Ramaphosa. Now, the Ramaphosa Trust owns a company called Dynasty Trading 115 Pty Limited. This company applied for coal mining license in the Argent Zamas area. I'm personally doing the case. And the Minister of Mineral Resources, that is Gwedi Mantashe, himself approved the EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment Report, and the EMP, the Environmental Management Plan. He did it because it was Ramaphosa's application. The company was owned by Ramaphosa Trust. Ramaphosa continues coal mining in the Mpumalanga area despite the coal mining carbon emitted in the Newzroom Zamas area being the cause of death of more than 40,000 children. Only a commission of inquiry was set up to establish who was responsible negligently or intentionally for the murder of more than 37 miners at Marikana. And where was the thing appointed? Still at Ramaphosa. Minister Nchabeni is a minister in the office of who? In the office of President Ramaphosa. Minister Nchabeni publicly made the remarks, they must be smoked out, they must be persecuted, they must be starved. These are fellow human beings. She said this in disregard to every fundamental right contained in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. She is a minister in the office of who? Of President Ramaphosa. President Ramaphosa did not utter one word. And guess what? Right now, there is a pending case before the International Criminal Court, established in terms of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, to investigate President Ramaphosa for crimes against humanity, for crime having contravened Article 7, subsection K, which I will quote for the benefit of the viewers. It provides as follows. For the purpose of the statute, any attack directed against any civilian population with the knowledge of the attack other inhumane acts of a similar character, intentionally causing great suffering or serious injury to body or to mental or physical health. Now, the suffering caused to the trapped people inside the mine. These people were labeled illegal miners and illegal foreigners before being found guilty. This is a crime against humanity.
Right.
I'm a person, surely as person ought to come and say, I tested myself. He did not want to say so.
Zehir, we are pressed for time. I just want to come in there. We have a couple of callers who are on the line that also want to just bring in their questions there. Thabiso from Bloemfontein, a very good evening to you. Your question for tonight.
Evening and to your panel there. Yes, I've got a comment here. I think the blame should go to the people that are managing our borders. They are willing to sell this country to the highest bidder. How can these people came to our country without being detected? And again, the second issue is that the Department of Mineral Resources, how can they allow that the mine should not be rehabilitated properly? I think that's the problem where it is. And the last is the kingpins. These guys are using the people that are vulnerable with the promise of money. I think the blame should go to them also. And who are these people? Where is this gold is ending? Who is receiving this gold? We should cut the supplier and find who are the people that are buying this gold. Thank you.
All right, Thabiso, thank you very much for giving us that comment. Let's take a quick ad break. We'll be back with our panel just to get their final thoughts on this discussion. Do stay with us. All right, welcome back. This is now the last segment of this topic where we are discussing the situation in Stilfontein, government's handling of it, and what your thoughts are with regards to humanity versus criminality. We do have a caller on the line, Mashishi from Midrand. A very good evening to you. What's your comment or question?
Yes, evening. My comment is, what was the interest of our government to retrieve those Stilfontein illegal miners? While we've got legal miners who were trapped, who are still underground for 10 years at the Lily mine at Barberton. So our government can't even retrieve them for 10 years. Now, what's the interest of our government to retrieve those people at Stilfontein? We've got our own citizen at Lily Mine underground for 10 years in the container, and we wanted their bodies to come out to be buried with dignity. And our government is not interested, but they are interested at Lily Mine. Who's fooling who here? That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mashishi from Midrand, for that comment. Let's take a few of your WhatsApps that have just come through. This one is from Silo, and Silo says, I stand with the minister here. Already we are spending taxpayers' money on criminals who are now refusing to be smoked out voluntarily, and yet their masters are claiming that they are trapped. Another one says, evening Newzroom Afrika, Stilfontein miners are criminals, and why do human rights stand for them? But those who send them should take them out and stop abusing our taxpayers' money. That's Lisiba from Mabuza. All right, and I want to bring in Tate Konopi into this discussion and maybe just answer the questions that have been posed by Mashishi in Midrand, saying, what's the interest of government in retrieving these miners? He made mention of the Lily mine in Barberton, where many of South African miners were left trapped under that mine. What's your take on that question from Mashishi?
The unfortunate thing, Katlego, is what I said in the beginning. The reason why we still have got the 3 people who are in the mine still underground with the container, it is that what has been put forward, it was at the cost of the retrieval of the container, as opposing to retrieve the people at the time when it was perceived that they were still alive, even at the time when it was perceived that they were dead, just to bring their remains to the families to just at least to say that they can bury them and know where they are being buried. So the state and the people who have been owning the Mluli mine, they always put the cost. The second thing I think I want to comment is what has been put on the earlier WhatsApp thing to say, why are we not chasing the people who are buying the product that these people have been mining? And that is what I put it earlier to say. In a capitalist state, the people who have got capital are lesser being pursued. We always give chase to these ones who are vulnerable on the ground, and we are always treating them as criminals. While there are bigger criminals who sit in somewhere enjoying their luxury life and enjoying the benefits of the products of these people who are getting under the ground. The last one, I think it is the question that has been asked on the issues of criminality and the constitutionality. It is unfortunate that if you live in a democratic constitutional republic, there are some of the things that says you cannot violate some basic rights on the basis that you want to enforce the rule of law. And maybe to say that the issue of the border management, it again goes back to the state to say the responsibility to control and manage who comes into the country and who leaves the country. It is the responsibility of the state. We have given them such a responsibility that they must manage our borders, they must control migration in our country. And they fail to a point that they've allowed people who are not supposed to be in the country to be in the country, and these people finding themselves doing things that they are not supposed to be doing. And when they do these things, we cannot say that on the basis that they've committed a crime, we then have to violate their rights. That is one of the things that we shouldn't be doing in a constitutional republic, which is governed by the fundamentals that has been proved by Professor Duvenhage, to say these are the fundamentals that are governing a constitutional republic, and we cannot find ourselves violating those basic things.
Prof, I mean, we heard Thabiso from Bloemfontein asking with regards to the rehabilitation of DMRE, where the kingpins are, why are we not looking at holding them more accountable, and just more importantly, where these minerals are going. Is there enough effort being put within that direction in terms of where the minerals are going and who truly is the benefactor of these operations?
Definitely no. There's no doubt that there is no proper investigation going on about the people that are benefiting from this process. And it is mentioned that these people are sometimes part of very, very influential criminal syndicates. And in that sense, the state is failing us because the public prosecution system in South Africa is not working well. But from a purely theoretical and constitutional point of view, my argument is still that the rule of law should be at the core, and then on the other side, human rights. And the fact of the matter is you need to apply the rule of law in such a way that it accommodate the core principles of the Constitution, including human rights principles. Right. In that sense, I think the state didn't follow the right way, but I am very strongly in favor of action taken by the state against criminal activity and misconduct.
Okay, we do have one last caller who is on the line. Thabiso from Pretoria, give us your question and then we're going to get closing remarks from you, Mr. Omar. Thabiso, very good evening to you. Your question or comment, please.
Hello, and how are you?
We're well, thanks, Thabiso. What's your question or comment?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not Thabiso. I'm Joseph.
All right, Joseph, thank you so much for joining us. Please give us your question for this evening.
Yeah, no, I want to say those people who are there by the illegal actual operation of the mine, they know there is somebody that they know who is in control of them. They are sitting there like innocent people, and then they want mercy, but they don't even show that they are actually asking or they are begging the government to help them. They are in danger, but at the same time, there are this other group of people who, I don't know, they pretend to be like community leaders who are pushing the government, like the government must feel like they are the ones who are on the guilty side. So what I want to say here is that those people, they must tell the police who is in operation there, because they are so now, they are very poor. They look very poor, very sick. Some of them are very dead. They are at a point now of revealing actually who are the culprits, instead of now making the government to be like on the guilty side. I want to say again, it's just like maybe they're taking advantage of our laws, where like, okay, human rights must be also be looked at. But they went there, I don't know, I can't say maybe some of them willingly,
Some of them, they were like, they went there looking for a job. They find themselves being forced to be in that position. But that is the police issue. That's why it is declared a criminal crime scene to that place. So I don't like what the community leaders are doing. They're trying to actually not assisting. Actually, they don't assist the people who are there. They don't assist them.
Right.
They are making the thing worse. Actually, this is what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for giving us that call and that comment. Zehir, I'm going to close this one off with you, maybe just bringing in those inputs by Joseph in saying that the zamas are not cooperating because it's them that could be giving the police the lead to those kingpins that we've been speaking about all night.
You see, I want to tell the listeners and the viewers the following. Never express xenophobia against Mozambique, Lesotho, Zimbabweans, Tanzanians. These people fought side by side with us to resist apartheid. They exposed themselves being blown into the sky. We must stand with them. Don't regard them as our enemy. Let's look after them. Their rights in our constitution protect everyone. Look for the enemy within ourselves, comrades. Our enemy, look to where Ramaphosa, what he did, what he said. Look at Babzuma. He said, remove all the borders of Africa. That is what we are looking for. That is what we want. Let us have a country that will benefit us all and benefit those who helped us, including the Mozambicans, the Lesotho, Swaziland, and the rest of Southern Africa. Siyabonga, thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. We have run out of time. It's been a very interesting discussion, but certainly one that has gotten South Africans talking, and of course for their contributions as well. Thank you to all gentlemen for your time this evening, and thank you for your calls, your comments, as well as your questions. Your headlines are coming up at the top of the hour, so do stay with us.